Vaya con Dios, amigo.
What's that mean?
Go with God.
You're listening to the Rock God Podcast. Welcome to another episode of the Rock God Podcast, the only podcast that talks to rock and heavy metal musicians and artists about their thoughts or opinions about God. I'm your host, David Locklear, owner and head writer at heavy-vinyl.com. Today we are talking to Robert Lever, also known as Birdthrower. Robert is a very unique songwriter and artist. He was discovered last year by singer-songwriter Ben Harper. And I think instead of me trying to wax poetic about what Robert's music is, I think I would like to read exactly what his friend Ben had to say about him. I saw a man on his hands and knees crawling through Manhattan in a blue business suit. The world was walking by him as if crawling up Broadway was a standard practice. I personally found it highly devotional, a man crawling home. Instinctively, I felt he was someone I needed to know. Turns out he was also a songwriter. And not just any songwriter, this was Birdthrower. Birdthrower and I became friends, and I signed on to produce his debut record. I immediately recognized in his music that these were not just songs, but love-aged, world-worn fables, scratched deep into the page with the painful pen of experience, maturity, and dirt beneath the fingernails. Pretty powerful words. And when you listen to Birdthrower's self-titled album, you hear all of those things that Ben Harper was talking about, from the hazy, drunken sway of Dreaming to the mournful tone of Crawl Away With Me. Robert took a few minutes out of his day recently to talk to us about the many different spiritual aspects of both his music and his artwork, and he also explains a very interesting personal connection that he feels between nature and God.
Talk about my medication. These pills, they taste just like annihilation, chewing holes in my gut and wearing down my soul. Last night I tore up the floor, now I'm on the ceiling. I see through walls, it's not a pleasant feeling. I think I need to taper down my dose. We need to talk about my medication. I think this just might be a situation where one of us is gonna come to harm. She travels more and more, it seems. My kid is so kind, it's a little extreme. The way he tells me he loves me 50 times a day. It's like he's afraid I'm gonna go away. And I tell him, don't worry, but I want to say, we need to talk about my medication. These pills, they taste just like annihilation, chewing holes in my gut and wearing down my soul. We need to talk about my medication. We need to talk about my medication. I need to talk about it. I need to talk about it. We need to, you need to, I need to talk about my medication. My medication. My medication. Yeah, my medication. My medication. My medication.
Hello.
Robert, how are you, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. We finally got to talk to each other. I'm so excited.
Yeah, where are you?
I'm in Louisville, North Carolina.
Okay, cool.
Where are you located?
I'm in New York City, and I'm at work right now on a lunch break.
Oh, okay.
I work as a gardener in Riverside Park.
Oh, that must be a cool job.
It is cool. I'm actually sitting on the steps of Riverside Church right now.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
How much time do you have?
Oh, I got time.
Okay. I want to make sure I'm not going to be cutting into your actual day.
No, if it gets like that, I'll let you know. But tell me how this works. Are you recording this?
Yeah. Is that okay with you?
Yeah. I figured you'd have to.
Yeah. It's I'm basically just going to record the whole thing and then try to clean up any sound issues and whatnot afterwards. I'm not the greatest at it, but I feel like I have a basic enough skill to make it pleasing to the ear when I finally put it out there.
Cool. How often do you guys run episodes?
I try to get it out every other Friday.
Nice.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I wish I could do it weekly. I just don't have enough time between me and the kids and helping my wife. She has a business, a counseling business that I help her out with, and
is your son feeling okay?
Oh yeah. It was actually my oldest, my daughter. She just basically she had some stomach issues where it's just we think she might have a sensitive stomach.
Yeah.
And so we might have to, start regulating some of the foods that she eats and whatnot. And it wasn't anything bad.
Was a little like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it seems to be getting better though.
Yeah, it's weird how it happened. It kind of came on all of a sudden for her. She's 13, so I figure there at least there's some part of it is just her body just changing in general, and it could just be. This is one of the things where it's flipping out a little bit, and
I think that might be it. I mean, my son is a little bit of an anxious kid, and sometimes he eats junk food, and those two things alone can mess with your stomach.
Oh yeah. When you're anxious like that, the stomach acids start getting to rolling, and
yeah. Well, if you hear any ambient weird sounds, it's because, I'm next to the train tracks and the church and the road over here and stuff like that.
Oh, that's fine. That won't be any problem. Actually, that kind of leads me to one of the questions I wanted to ask you was about your video Crawl Away. That was, I'm assuming, probably filmed near where you are right now, am I right?
Yeah, that's right. That was filmed very near here. A couple of years ago as part of well, it wasn't intended to be a music video. At that point, it was just I was documenting the project, crawling home, which is when I crawled the length of Manhattan on my hands and knees in my father's old business suit, and it was documented with some photographs and some video, and I wrote about it and put that up on a website. But anyway, yeah, that footage turned into the video for a song that I wrote about, sort of loosely about crawling home.
Yeah. And, well, the thing that I was noticing while you were doing it was, well, first off, when I realized you have gloves on, I was like, oh, thank God. But,
yeah,
yeah. But the other thing...
some people accuse me of cheating.
See, that's not fair, man. That's New York City sidewalk. There's no telling what kind of jungle funk is all over that sidewalk. I don't blame you.
Yeah, well, it really wasn't about germs as much as just, wearing your hands out after a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, you'd be surprised how I could go a whole block without seeing anything too gross on the sidewalk at all.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, New York's gotten a lot cleaner.
Well, that's good to hear. I guess I think I've become a little bit more of a germaphobe as I've gotten older, and so that's probably where this is coming from. I don't think that would have bothered me nearly as much when I was younger. Yeah,
well, I think especially right now, everybody's kind of a germaphobe. But
right.
Yeah, I didn't think about it too much at the time, and I also had knee pads on, so I was cheating on my knees too. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't blame you on that one. My knees kind of, they don't take the beatings the way that they used to.
Well, try crawling without knee pads on for a block, and it'll get your attention. You need help, even if your knees are good.
Well, one of the other things that really gave away that you were in New York in that video was the people's reaction to you crawling. You didn't have very many people that seemed to think that was unusual at all, which I thought was actually unintentionally funny.
Yeah, a lot of people remark on that. It is funny to watch. That people, I guess they thought it was a performance. Maybe, I don't know. My friend had a camera on a very tall stick. It's strange, but as I said, I crawled the whole length of Manhattan, and people often were just like, they didn't notice it all, and then other people got very interested. But most people just don't pay any attention.
Right.
Strange. Which is fine. I wasn't doing it so people would, freak out. I just wanted to freak myself out.
Well, I like that one guy that gave you the fist bump. That was kind of nice.
Oh yeah, that was amazing. And the way my friend Larry Fessenden is a filmmaker, he cut that together. But there was a lot of moments like that on that journey, all the way up Manhattan. Some people tried to help me, and they thought something was wrong, and they'd ask if I needed anything, and other people got angry at me and told me to get up, said I was insulting myself by doing that. I mean, the whole spectrum of responses is fascinating.
Oh, wow. So you had some people, it almost sounds like they were projecting their own stuff onto you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, one guy came up and just demanded that I stand up, and I thought we were going to get in a fight. I rose up on my knees, but I said, you're going to need to let me alone. This is my own private project here. And he said, well, do you have a son? How do you think he would feel if his father was out, if he knew you were out crawling around?
Wow.
And I said, well, actually, he does know. He's okay about
it. It doesn't bother him.
It doesn't bother him too much. And then I had some run-ins with the police, but they were cool. They didn't arrest me or frisk me or anything like that.
Well, that's nice. It's nice.
Yeah, I think I was enjoying a little white privilege there in my crawl.
Right.
I can't imagine they would, plus I explained myself to them pretty firmly, that it was, again, a private art project, and cops don't really care what you're doing as long as you keep moving. If you just stopped in one place, then they got to deal with you. But I always emphasized that I was going to keep moving on and be on my way, and they didn't need to worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like as long as you weren't actually messing up the flow of sidewalk traffic, they didn't bother them then.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's kind of nice to hear, though, that a lot of people tried to help you and whatnot. That kind of gives me a little, bit of a jolt of faith in the human race, which I think is needed from time to time.
Oh, yeah. No, there was plenty of that. Some just laughs and some thumbs up. And a woman I know actually came and crawled behind me for a while one day.
Huh.
That was interesting. I realized that day that I really preferred to crawl alone.
That's a strange thing to learn, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
End up starting some sort of weird cult, like in Forrest Gump.
Exactly. Well, I had this fantasy before I started. Wow, maybe I'll have like 1,000 people behind me. That would be funny. But then when I started, I realized that it felt more intense to do it by myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and part of the impetus was just so I could write about it, because I'm also a writer, and I wrote a chapter for each crawl, and there was 20 crawls total, and through 3 or 4 different seasons. So there was snowstorms and rain, and I crawled through Times Square in the driving rain, and so all that stuff, the isolation within a city. So on one hand, I was completely alone, but I was surrounded by millions of people.
Right, yeah. Was that sort of what you were trying to get at with this art?
I guess so. I wasn't as sure what I was going to discover once I started doing it. I was a little scared the first day. It felt like a bad idea as soon as I got down on the ground and started crawling. There was a voice in my head saying, "Get up, get up, get up." So there was a lot of vulnerability, that I had to embrace in order to be able to do it. That said, I didn't know. I usually had a friend who was sort of hiding on taking a couple pictures, and so I wasn't completely alone. But crossing the street, for example, is really, when you're on your hands and knees in the city, can be kind of scary.
Yeah, I was wondering about that, because at the pace that you were going, it seemed like those lights could change on a dime, and then somebody's going to decide, well, today's the day I got to kill someone to get onto my job.
Yeah, well, I was surprised how fast I could crawl when I had to. One time I tried to do it. One day I went alone with nobody taking pictures or nobody kind of checking on me. And that was very different too. I tried different things. I crawled completely alone a few times. I crawled with my eyes closed one night up in Harlem for a couple blocks just to sort of feel my way along, and that was pretty strange. But it was it was a profound experience. It was more intense than I expected it would be.
Sounds like it was oddly meditative in a way.
Yeah, it was. It was transformative. I sort of look at my life. We all have these events, but before the crawl and after the crawl, it changed me as a person. Interesting.
Now, what was the idea behind wearing your father's old business suit?
It seems sort of loaded, and maybe it is, but it's a nice suit. It was a nice suit. I've done a lot of weird things in that suit, but I just felt like it had some sort of symbolism, metaphorical weight, and it didn't say this is my father's suit, but I knew it was his suit, and he used to be a businessman, and when he was much younger, and it fits me. It's a little big, actually. It's kind of baggy, old business suit and I was thinking about how men in suits, white men in particular, have done a lot of damage on the planet. Mm-hmm. And for people to see a man in a business suit on his hands and knees is a lot different than seeing a guy in a sweatsuit or in a wetsuit, or you know what I mean? It looks like he might have had a job once and he lost it. There's all kinds of things that you might consider when you see, and that was a part of the project too. I wanted people to see a guy crawling and go home and be a little confused and tell their wife or husband or children, I saw a man crawling today. It's sort of, things must be getting stranger. Mm-hmm. So the suit helped the theater part of it, the presentation. I think when you perform music, it's the same thing. You kind of, you can wear whatever, t-shirt and jeans is fine, or you can, create a character.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm even sitting here thinking, symbolically speaking, you could be making a statement about living in, the shadow of your father, and this, like, you've in some way are still wearing his suit through life, as it were. Things you inherited.
Yeah, well,
and
exactly. I haven't shed that, his influence, and it's weighing me down. There's all kinds of interpretations. It's rich in that way, so that's part of the idea of wearing that suit.
Yeah.
Plus, it just is a better visual somehow. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, the suit, it looks like it was like almost like a blue tin. Is that right?
It's a blue pinstripe suit. Yeah.
It was cool looking for the video, so I definitely enjoyed looking at it. Aesthetically, it was pleasing.
Yeah, no, it's the uniform. I've worn it for a few different projects. After I crawled, I did a project called Whole Earth, where I dug a hole in the ground in various places. I did it in Europe and out west and here on the East Coast. And I would dig a round hole and get inside of it in the fetal position. And I was wearing the suit for that, too.
Yeah, I actually saw that on your Instagram. And, I was wondering about that. That's actually kind of a neat idea. That again, because it's so metaphorically charged.
Yeah, that was a really that was a very different project, but it was sort of a sibling to the crawling. It just sort of it made sense, and I got a song out of that also called "Dig a Hole."
Right.
Yeah, and that was interesting because every time you dig a hole, the ground is different. Sometimes it takes 4 or 5 hours to dig a hole, and other times it takes, 20 minutes. And that was, that really took a toll on the suit.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, it's pretty torn up. And my hands.
Right.
Yeah. A park in England that took, really, in the hot sun, it took me like 4 or 5 hours to get a hole big enough for me to get inside of.
Oh,
I think the one you saw on Instagram, was that yesterday?
Oh, no. Yeah, actually it was. Yeah.
Yeah, that one's in the Bronx. That was a nasty hole. Yeah, it was like a vacant lot in the Bronx, and the ground smelled really sour, like sewage, toxic. And it took me a very long time to get, I was squeezed tight in that hole.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, but see, that's when I would start second-guessing my art. I think I would just be like, I don't know, man. This ground smells like shit. I don't think I'm getting in there.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a little... I must have been punishing myself a little bit. But, yeah, you can't... You have to commit. Once you start digging or crawling, you can't back off. It's kind of like... It reminds me of music in that way, certain kinds of music or songs or performances specifically. You really have to jump in.
Yeah, and make sure that you kind of follow through with what you were trying to do to make sure it works or know if it didn't.
Yeah, and you can take your time, with these projects. I mean, nobody's telling me to dig the hole. There's no gun to my head. I take as long as I want. I take a break. I lie down. Sometimes I take a nap and wake up and keep digging.
Right. Well, that kind of reminds me, of... the dig a hole kind of reminds me of the name Birdthrower in and of itself. That, those two seem kind of similar in terms of there's a specific statement that you're trying to make. And with the title Birdthrower, your musical project, I feel like you're actually are you making a statement about God by saying he threw birds into the air, or did I misunderstand that?
Yeah, people have asked me that before. I think when I first told a friend about it, I think I'm going to call myself Birdthrower. He said, well, that sounds like you have some kind of God, you're on a God trip. And I hadn't thought of it because initially I was in a field with my son when he was pretty young, I think like 6 or 7 or something. And we were laying down on the grass on the side of a hill, and a bird flew over, and he said, Dad, who throws the birds? And I said, I thought for a second, I said, the bird thrower, without really thinking. And that came out as just an answer to a child's question. And then I liked the way it sounded. And I like the way it looked, just the word bird thrower. And yeah, it has those connotations. But I don't necessarily, when you say God, I'm not sure what you mean. You mean a creator of birds?
Well, I guess a creator of life. Things like that.
Yeah, I mean, whatever it is that created this. Well, birds, I mean, it's a funny thing because birds are sort of self-propelled, but the thing that, that the idea that a child would have that the bird got thrown, that's why it's flying across the sky, is such a beautiful idea,
Yeah.
I love that. And actually, when I looked it up to see if the name was taken, there's a bird thrower, but it's 2 words, and it's a clay pigeon thrower that, so you can shoot them with a shotgun.
Oh, well, that's an odd juxtaposition for what you're going for then.
I know, it's kind of funny. But I can imagine somebody saying pull, God saying pull, and then the clay pigeon gets shot up. But anyway, yeah. So sometimes when I perform, I wear those yellow skeet shooting glasses as a connection to the bird thrower brand. Anyway, yeah. So, I mean, it's got that. The name has that element to it.
Well, yeah. I mean, at one point you even said something like, "How do you think the birds got there?" And I think that was what intrigued me and caught my attention when I was listening to the album.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. That song in particular is sort of a complaining God song, like a God that feels like he's not being, or she, I suppose, but I'm singing it in this case, not being acknowledged or appreciated. Mm-hmm. I mean, literally at the end I say, screw this place, I've done my best, see how you like it when I take a rest.
Right.
Which I like the idea that God would feel unappreciated,
right?
And just sort of say, take this job and shove it, type of thing.
I mean, I get a kick out of that idea. Just like there was a band years ago, it was a Christian band, and they had a album called "The Funeral of God," and it was like the idea of so many people saying God is dead, and him literally saying, "Okay, see what happens when I die," and then like the entire universe falls apart, and it sounds very similar to what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote a little poem the other day about if I could interview a pond. This pond have a place in the mountains, and if I could interview the pond, what I would ask the pond, and all those sort of those different takes, different perspectives on these relationships that are always kind of they end up being kind of redundant. You always think of it as God speaking down to the lesser, weaker earthling, but I'm sitting here at the base of this church, and there's some falcons two peregrine falcons living up in the steeple.
Yeah,
I can see them flying around right now, and I'm thinking the whole thing about. My relationship to this subject is, I think people are really impressed with themselves for the things they create, like this church, which is this huge, huge, impressive building. But, people could never create falcons, and the falcons are more interesting and impressive to me than the church.
Yeah.
So, and falcons don't make anything; they just live, So, so I guess that's sort of more of a pagan notion, maybe. I don't know. That band Death Grips?
Yeah.
I read an interview with them once, and they asked the guy, I don't remember his name, the singer, what's inspiring to him lately, and he said, well, nothing that's made by humans. Which it stuck with me for some reason, because it is, even art, it doesn't compare. For me, great art is a wonderful thing that people make, but nature to me is the masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
And, so some people might say God made nature, but people certainly didn't.
Right, yeah. Yeah, what is your relationship to spirituality? You, in your album, you directly address God on the song Pray, where you talk about, going into a tree and that's how you pray. So, what's your spiritual background that brought you to these types of lyrics?
Well, I grew up in a pretty small town outside of Boston, right near Walden Pond, and I went to a traditional, sort of like a Unitarian church, a white church. We sang songs and went to some Sunday school, and that never really, I liked the music part of it. I remember I did a Bible study, and it was the day for me to get my Bible. And you go up front with the minister, and they're about to hand you your Bible with some other kids. They call your name. And they called my name, and I just got really dizzy and felt like I was going to get sick, and the whole room started to turn and spin, and I ran down through the church and out the door and jumped into a snowbank and face first and threw up. And that really, I don't know what happened, but I didn't really go back into a church for a long time, and I never really kind of joined an organized religion. But at the same time, I was spending a lot of time in nature, and a couple things happened to me in nature that I think might happen to some people in church sometimes, where you just feel like you're being seen by something greater, and you're in the presence of yourself and of something mysterious, and it's sort of there's a holiness in the air around you. You can just feel it, and I had that happen alone in nature. So I think that's where I got that's where my spirituality is based. So in a song like that, when I want to talk, that's how I pray. I get myself free. When I want to talk to God, I climb up in a tree. Mm-hmm. That sort of just means what it says. It's just God is such a tricky word because people think, they jump to conclusions, right?
Yeah.
The tree is as much a God as, in that moment in the song, So, yeah, I think I've gone to, I went to this Buddhist school for a little while in Colorado. I went to a Quaker school for a little while before that, and all those things are interesting.
Yeah.
But I don't practice any of that.
Right.
On,
Yeah.
on a regular basis. And it is interesting that I guess there's a few songs on the record that talk sort of directly about that experience, but that's, there's no formal religion in my life.
Right. Well, for me, I'm part Native American. Like my dad's half of the family is from the Lumbee tribe, and even since I was a little kid, I've always been taught and felt the connection between God and nature. That there is sort of if I go out into the woods, if I go for a hike by myself, I feel a stirring of God from my perspective, just even in the simplest things of, wind blowing through the leaves or, touching a very old tree and whatnot, that there is some sort of a connection there that I get. I see where you're saying. So I think that's why that song stuck out to me more than a lot of the other ones on the album.
Yeah. I mean, that may be my favorite song too. And, been trying to get a video together for it. And the only sort of images that make sense, a friend of mine does this, his name's Garth Batista, and he takes these time-lapse photographs of the stars and space, and, with trees in the foreground sometimes, and those time-lapse things you can do, you leave the camera on and you kind of see it going in fast motion, the whole day goes by and stars are flying across the sky, and it just seems like it's a sort of godlike. It reminds me of what we're talking about. That feeling. There's actually a new. Where's that tribe from?
Oh, Lumbee.
Yeah,
it's in sort of the southeastern part of the state. And this shows what a shitty Indian I am. But I'm pretty sure that they're a mixture of like Cherokee and Chiraw tribes. That apparently there was some sort of a feud, and these guys kind of got together and settled on the Lumber River. Oh,
okay. There's a great book called The Heartbeat of Wounded Knee that's out now. I've been reading. It's sort of the history of Indian culture from Wounded Knee up until now. Because there's been so much written about, what happened up until Wounded Knee, but not as much, afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, there's all kinds of tragedy in there, but there's also some interesting stories about, perseverance and rediscovering, how to be an Indian after all that trauma, and what it means. It's a good book.
Oh yeah, I'll have to check that out. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's really good. But yeah, I mean it's funny. The record is gonna be, we made that record a couple of years ago, and it's gonna be released this, in a month or two on Ben Harper's new label. And I just got a call from his partner about it, and I feel so removed from it. Time passes, and you just think, okay, I guess I did make that. I'm not quite the same person anymore, but and I have a lot of other songs, and Ben kind of chose those songs. I kept sending him songs after we connected, and he chose those very specifically. I think he did a good job because it's the right collection, for that particular record.
Yeah. Now, how did you end up connecting with Ben on Innocent Criminal Records? That's his label.
Yeah. Well, it turns out he's got to rename it. So because there's some kind of conflict, I can't remember what it is, some legal stuff. But he's got a new name for it, and they're going to announce it soon enough. But I connected with him through a mutual friend in L.A., and we went out drinking a few times a few years ago, and or eating dinner or whatever we were doing, and became friendly. But I never told him about my music or anything. But my friend passed a few songs to him, and then one in particular called "My Medication."
Yeah,
that's on the record. Somehow Ben decided he wanted to do something with my songs, and he texted me, and I didn't have his number in my phone or anything, but he said, out of the blue, he's like, "Hey, I want to put some of your music out on my website, and then maybe see how that goes. Maybe we can make a record. You can come out here."
And you're like, "Who is this?"
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I said, "Who is this?" And he said, "It's gas station wide receiver." And I remembered because of that, because we had we found a football, and we were throwing a football in a gas station parking lot, like in the middle of the night at Skid Row in L.A. And I remember, because when he said gas station wide receiver, I thought, well, that's a good song title. So I wrote a song that night called Gas Station Wide Receiver, which is not on the record. But anyway, that succeeded in jogging my memory. And he was unbelievable. I mean, he really, his focus and his sort of follow through is so impressive, I mean, not to mention his musical talent, but I mean, just as a person who says, "I want to do this," people just lose focus, lose interest, make excuses, get distracted. That's kind of the rule, right?
Yeah.
But he never did, and in the studio, he was just all over it. And he brought this rhythm section that he plays with him that, he's won some Grammys with, this guy Jimmy Paxton and Jesse Ingalls. Incredible musicians, and this guy Sheldon Gomberg, whose studio he engineered it in Silver Lake. So I mean, he just kept every step of the way. He's been completely. I mean, my relationship with my own music changes all the time. Sometimes I can't stand it. I don't want to ever hear it again. I don't like to listen to it, and other times I'm proud of it. But he's just steady. He'd say, I love this record. I want people to hear it. And that was it. He never wavered.
That's really cool. Just to have somebody, and not only so well known, but somebody who is very into and respectful of music and the musical sound and the expression of music would be, I would think, very validating as an artist.
Yeah, I mean, I should try to let it validate me more. I sometimes, I mean, I remember he said, I'm going to be away for a week. I'm producing a record for Mavis Staples. And I thought, well, that's so weird. You just produced my record, and now you're going to produce Mavis Staples' record? Like, what the hell? That can't be. I don't belong anywhere near any of this. But, it's not really up to me, and it's important for artists to find people like that sometimes that'll help them when they're kind of their own worst enemy,
Yeah, because a lot of the times,
as far as just staying confident or staying clear about what you're trying to do, I mean, I'm terrible at getting my music out there. I mean, I share it with friends, but I've never done social media. My son got me on Instagram. I've never owned a handheld music device. Mm-hmm. I've never had a smartphone. I mean, I'm a nightmare when it comes to self-promotion. Disaster.
Well, it's the whole, notion that you're always going to be your own worst critic, and usually that's an indicator that you might be pretty decent at what you do.
Yeah, maybe that's true. I never thought. I mean, there's some people who tell you they're the shit, and they are the shit, but that doesn't happen that often. It's true. I mean, that is a. I mean, Ben, when we finished recording, when I took my guitar out there, and it's the only guitar I've ever had. And the first day he said, "Why don't you try this?" And he has a lot of guitars. He gave me a Martin to play, a really nice Martin. And it really did make a difference. I used to think, it doesn't really matter. People say a better guitar sounds so much better, but of course it does. And when we finished recording, I said, "Thanks for letting me play. Here it is." And he said, "No, it's yours."
Oh man, that is so cool.
Yeah. I mean, I thought he was kidding. He said it's been years of just waiting to do this. You know, he was just so cool about it. He was so casual and direct about it, and it really was a moving gift. Talk about validation, you know?
Right. Oh yeah.
It's under my bed right now. I need to get it out again. I put it away a few weeks ago because I just, you know, you got to. Sometimes when the instruments are out in front of you, they just, you get, I don't know, you got to put them away sometimes because you just keep sort of thinking I should be playing, or why aren't I learning some new stuff, or I should try this or that. So I'm trying to take a break and play a little more piano. Been trying to learn this classical piece on the piano for about 10 years.
Well, it's good because sometimes that's a good way to recharge the batteries a little bit. You know, like a lot of the times, well, for the longest time, I've been a writer, but I just have not given two shits about writing probably in the last year. And I think that's part of why I started this podcast, was because so much of what I was writing about was usually interviewing some people and interviewing, you know, to try to find out, you know, what makes people motivated from an artistic perspective. And I don't know, I just felt like, you know, I'd rather just record it as the conversation that it is, instead of trying to transcribe it and make it sound floral and maybe just make it come about the way it's supposed to. And I think that that's good to kind of step away from certain things that you've always done, because I almost feel like if you do it for too long, you really can end up hurting it more than making it good.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can start to, I mean, I'm a somewhat limited guitar player, and I start to repeat myself, and I get the idea down, but I don't, you know, it's either time to learn a new instrument sometimes, literally or figuratively, or, you know, or just put it down, like you said. I mean, you probably doing a podcast makes you more sensitive to how, you know, what sort of organic kind of paths language goes down, you know, the way people speak as opposed to the way you write the way they speak, you know. It's tricky to get the dialogue
and
as
even
real as it can be.
Yeah, like even the inflections of you know, not even conversation, but just any kind of artistic expression, you know, if it's not sort of seen the way it happens, it can lose something in translation.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And you've got you said you do writing as well, so you're looking at music and like a video artistry. Do you do painting and things like that? I
do the performance art. I do a lot of different writing. I've written some. I have a couple of films that I've written. One called The Last Winter I wrote with Larry Fessenden. Also, it's sort of an eco-thriller horror movie. Ron Perlman is in it, and a couple other people.
Wow.
It's worth renting. It's out there or streaming and this and that. It's called The Last Winter.
The Last Winter. Okay.
Larry and I just wrote a new film, and I used to write for magazines. I wrote for High Times a little bit. High Times went through a phase where they actually had articles about musicians and stuff like that, and then they went back into just like you know, seeds and grow lights and stuff. But anyway, I wrote for Esquire. Wrote an article about Louis C.K. for Esquire years ago, and some other stuff. And then I'll write poetry and publish it in some little out of the way places. Some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I've always been writing, and I do a different kind of music too. I have a duo called This Wilderness with a guy named Jim Coleman. He used to be in, I don't know if you're familiar with Cop Shoot Cop.
Yeah.
Jim was in Cop Shoot Cop, and he's in a band now with the guy from Unsane, Chris Spencer, and drummer Phil Paleo from Swans.
Oh, yeah.
The bass player from Swans. They're called Human Impact. they have a record coming out. They're going on tour, and Jim and I have this Wilderness project. We put out a record and 2 little mini records, but that's it. I wear a suit again in that, but I don't play an instrument. I just scream and jump around, and it's more of a it's sort of a Nick Cavey kind of approach more than sitting there with a guitar.
Right. Well, it's funny you mentioned Nick Cave, because that's a good segue into my other question, which is that your vocal delivery on Birdthrower sounds influenced by like Lou Reed and Nick Cave. So I'm assuming that's that Nick Cave did have some sort of effect on the way that you sang on the album.
Really, I never heard that. I mean, I've never heard it myself. Yeah, sort of. I mean, Lou Reed just pops up sometimes, which probably makes me think I should try to be more melodic. but yeah. I mean, I love those guys are great for sure. I mean, the last couple of things Nick Cave has done, and it's funny bringing up Nick Cave because the part of this park that I'm in charge of is called. I've been thinking about Nick Cave because I'm in charge of this little area around this monument. It's called the Grave of the Amiable Child, and it's a spot in 1797. A little boy, a 5-year-old boy, fell off a cliff here. Oh, in this exact spot. And as you may or may not know, that's what happened to Nick Cave's son.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of tending this area, this garden right around the grave site of this boy. And so I think about Nick Cave sometimes and his horrible loss. And those records he's made since then have been just devastating.
Oh, hell yeah. The Skeleton Tree was upsetting, but when you find out most of it was made before his son died, you're kind of like, oh, okay, it's just a really melancholy album. But
yeah,
man.
I mean that last song, Skeleton Tree.
Yeah,
I can't even think about it without getting choked up.
Yeah, I can't listen to it that much, and I think it's because my kids are creeping into that age.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't know, man. That's a dark place. I'm not sure I'm ready to sit in.
It's dark. It's also, I mean, the way he seems to deal with it is so cathartic and generous and sort of vulnerable. He's not, some people mess around with darkness and they don't really know. It's like Roman Polanski, the direct. Well, there's like the violence in Chinatown when he cuts the guy's nose. I mean, that's a really striking. And then these other movies that just have violence nonstop throughout, and it doesn't make half the impact of that little moment. But I mean, my point, I guess, is I think Nick Cave has kind of come out the other side as a even more mature artist, just trying to give people something that they could use in their own time of trouble, not just ranting about his own loss, which he has every right to do,
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, so this project it has a lot more of that, like, explosive jump around stuff, but it doesn't. It's a struggle to kind of render certain feelings when there's that much volume and chaos and stuff. We played with a drummer. We had a little tour last year, and I just wore myself out trying to be heard. Literally, like in the mix. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to be able to just sing quietly, but then I don't like being stuck sitting there playing guitar, because I can't just play guitar like some people. I have to look at the strings sometimes to make sure I'm where I need to be. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's not just like a second nature instrument. I have to kind of, pay attention. It's a little confining sometimes.
Yeah, no, I'm a terrible guitar player, so I know exactly what you mean. It's like, I know these 5 basic chords, and pretty much anything I play is going to revolve around those because they were the first ones I learned. So I'm not going to be venturing too much further out other than It's fun to noodle around, and yeah, I'm not going to be expressing myself like Steve Vai or Eric Johnson or anybody like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you noticed on the Birdthrower record, but the drummer and the bass player, the drummer in particular, I notice every time I hear the record, his drumming is just so good. Mm-hmm. And the bass players, just as good. I felt so lucky to be playing with those guys, but I had never played with musicians that were that skilled, and so it was really hard to keep my focus because we were recording live, and I was just so blown away that I'd occasionally lose I forget what I was doing because I was so tickled by how awesome they were.
So are they the kind of musicians that can kind of gauge what you're doing and then they kind of adjust their musicianship based around it?
I mean, yeah, totally. The drummer was just respond to the way I say a word, or like answer back in some way, or just adjust and do something that just comments on what I'm doing or what the bass player is doing. I mean, just the highest level musicianship. So I mean that, and they're not complicated songs, so they learn the songs so fast, and then they just bring this level of feeling to the playing that is really, if you're not used to being around that, it really, I really literally stopped a couple times and just said, I just started laughing. It was so good.
Yeah, I'm always jealous of that level of awareness within the realm of natural talent. When somebody is just so good at something that they're like, oh no, I can tweak it just a little bit, and you're going, I'd have never thought of that.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, I felt like I didn't feel like I didn't deserve to be there. I definitely was like, okay, well, I got these songs, and I feel good about these songs. And it's funny with that song "Pray." When we started to record it, it was fast and it had this sort of like heavy rocking kind of vibe, and there's a train.
Yep.
I gotta get it. See ya. Yeah, and then right there in the studio, I said, "Nah, that's not it." And they kind of were like, "Okay, what do you want to do?" And I came, you know how that song has this sort of slow march, like Prey does, like dun 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 dun,
Mm-hmm.
And we found that, and it just locked in so quickly. I mean, we literally did every song in like 1 or 2, maybe 3 takes. So yeah, that's what happens when you work with people that are that good. And and I'm not a perfectionist myself. I think perfection is highly overrated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a fan of little flaws and whatnot because I feel like it makes it a little more accessible in a way.
Yeah, and this isn't a particularly like lo-fi record at all, but I just didn't. I mean, as far as my performances, I don't need them to be perfect. If the feeling's there, it's more important.
Right. So you were saying that you had a lot more songs that you've written since this Birdthrower has come out. Are you going to be dropping a new record pretty soon?
Well, I got to drop this record properly first.
Oh, right.
Yeah. But I mean, I've been writing songs for years, and some of them you think are great when you write them, and they don't really stand up, and some do, and so yeah, I have to figure out what to do with them. Do they need to be released? I don't have a burning desire to perform all the time. I mean, I'll always write songs. I personally, part of the reason I have this job, besides the obvious reasons you have jobs, is I'm outside all the time, and I really need to be outside. So I think, the combination of like writing songs and working outside is a really good combination for me. And even if the songs are just, diary sort of entries that you're going to be able to remember your life with your own songs. That's handy. I mean, but the performance part of it, getting out and touring, and I've been working with a bass player and stuff, but I just don't have a burning desire to play in front of people. Mm-hmm. I mean, I will. I'm happy to. If somebody asks me to, I will. But just to go out and play for 10 or 20 people and, which happens, a lot to people that are like way more established than me. If you go on the road and people don't know who you are, they don't come out.
Yeah.
And you gotta work it. You really gotta work it. And I can't keep paying my kid to run my Instagram.
Yeah, I was gonna say this comes back to the whole Instagram self-promotion thing, which I get it. I'm kind of the same way. It's like, to me, that's the part that I hate the most, where I'm like, man, this is a pain in the ass. I got stuff to do.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta be. It almost it serves a younger person more, because it's second nature to just create a virtual identity for yourself. It doesn't feel strange, but somebody my age, it just feels so. I shouldn't be, and I sound like an old man, but I just find it. I'm offended by the fact that I have to create this virtual presence.
Right. Mm.
That I'm not. It's not enough. To do it without that. Yeah. And I should just, I'm not going to complain about reality, but it is a little bit of a drag.
Yeah, I feel your pain on that one for sure. It's definitely one of those things that I view as a necessary evil. You have to do it in order to get your name out there, but I won't mourn at its funeral when it finally passes.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's gonna pass. It might get right. More. I think we'll pass before it passes.
Right. Yeah.
It'll change, but I'll be long gone by then.
Instagram is going, well, it's a shame that you guys died. Oh well, we're better off without you.
I don't know. How long would it take Instagram to realize I was dead?
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, it's like no matter how much effort you put into it, it seems like it's just not enough. You're not going to be recognized in the way you feel like your effort should be.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds just to be able to, like you were saying, validation is important, and I have my own kind of weird relationship with like my brother, for example, says things like, it's just not right, man. More people need to know about the stuff you do. And I think, do they? I mean, why do they, And then I think, well, no, I'm an artist. I guess I want people to know about me. But then I mean, that's my own issue, like I want to make the stuff, but I don't really, sometimes I just forget to care if anybody knows. Right.
Yeah. Yeah,
maybe
I
that's
suffer
good.
from
That's
the same
a blessing
thing.
And a curse, because you remain sort of an unknown. But I feel so lucky that I can even write a song.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of it, the satisfaction of being able to write something where even you look at it and go, that's not bad. All right, I'm good with that. It is kind of validating in and of itself.
Yeah. Yeah, or I take it one step further and say you do something and you're like, now that's something that's really good. That's as good as I can do, and I'll put that up against any other song of its kind. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. A song on that subject, let's say. Like if it's a train song or something, I'd be like, I'll put that up against any other train song. Not that it's some kind of competition, but sometimes you feel like, fuck, man, I nailed that. And you may not feel that way in a year, but it's a nice feeling to capture that emotion as it might relate to your life, and to have it in a song. I mean, I love that about songwriting, that you can really apprehend something that's so mysterious and fleeting, and and you have it. It's captured in the song.
Yeah, and the fact that it's yours, is some sort of it's almost like a special ownership in a way.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I've always written songs for other people on special occasions, and you know, it might not be it might be just a funny rhyming song with some truth in it, you know, for your mother-in-law or something, but it really means a lot to people. Most, you know, to have a song, you know, and that's sort of one of the fun end of it, you know, not so heavy, and so it's yeah. I mean, I do love it, and to answer your question in a long way, I don't know when I'm going to make another record. There's enough songs for many records, you know. Mm-hmm. Funny songs. Some of them go more in the John Prine direction. Some of them go more experimental. Some of them I've got a record full of songs about being a father, you know, to my son.
Yeah.
This one song, "Pretty Girls Go to Museums." That's where you should go, boy, if you want to see them. I mean, it goes on and on. There's just I'm not saying that's a song anyone needs to hear, but he can hear it, and it'll make him laugh long after I'm gone.
Right, yeah. He might even be able to say, you know, "Thanks, Dad. This is how I met my wife."
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So, well, when do you think, when do you, did you say that the Birdthrower record is actually going to be given the proper release?
Well, the thing is, it's a little confusing because Ben started a label. The record is out. The Birdthrower record is out on Spotify and everywhere else that you can digitally. It's a digital release. And I didn't want to pony up money for vinyl and CDs. So the release, now that he's got a label formally, and I'm the first artist on his label, I'm told I'm the flagship artist, which is a little scary. But somebody's got to do it.
Right, yeah.
Anyway, so it's out there, but then there's to be a formal announcement of the name of his label and, a couple words from him about it. And that'll be out, on Billboard and this and that, in the next month or so. I think. I don't know what's expected of me around any of this. There's not a tour planned. But, maybe I have no idea. I really don't know right now. It's sort of taking shape.
Okay.
He's, yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, tell everybody where they can go for your Instagram.
Oh, the Instagram is at Birdthrower. One word: BIRDTHROWER. And there's information there. My website, robertoliver.com. And yeah, the Instagram has the info and the records out there. There's some videos on YouTube, and
oh yeah, and people can subscribe to it. It's what, Robert Lever on YouTube?
I can't remember. It might be Rob. Yeah, if you go to the Instagram, you can see there's some links there on the Instagram.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't require a whole lot of sleuthing, I think. Birdthrower, a bunch of shit comes up besides the shotgun-related stuff. It has to do with me and my music. So. Yeah,
actually, I was going to say, when you go on YouTube, I think your stuff is what pops up primarily, and it's several videos. I was, I kind of went down a bit of a rabbit hole 3 or 4 days ago watching these videos.
I hope it was a good rabbit hole.
It was. I enjoyed it, yeah.
Yeah, there's a few there. There's one that I did with Ben, and then there's a couple that my friend Larry made, the dig a hole, and there's plenty of stuff there. And I'm happy to be sharing it. I really taking the time to talk to me to do this. I've never even I got to listen to it. I heard Shittown. That was a podcast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
Right, yep.
That's it. Yeah, that was really cool. But I was going to do another one of these with Joseph Arthur. Everybody's got one of these. This is through the label. This is your label?
Yeah, this is my website.
Yeah. Gotcha.
It's kind of funny you mentioned Joseph Arthur. He actually appeared on one of the episodes, and I completely fucked that interview up beyond anything I could have possibly had a nightmare about. I completely...
Really? How so?
Well, I'd been listening to him for years, and so a lot of the lyrics I kind of took to heart, and I didn't realize it until I was about halfway through an interview with him. And I suddenly realized that a lot of the stuff he was singing about was just like storytelling, and I was taking it to heart as something that was personal to him as it was to me. And so, you know, so I'm sitting there halfway through the interview going, oh my God, I brought so much baggage to this interview and I didn't know it.
What was he like? Dude, that's not real. It's just a song.
Kinda.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Ben made a record with him and Danny Harrison called Fistful of Mercy, and I was going to do an interview with Joseph Arthur, and I saw that he was having like all kinds of heavy-duty sort of semi-famous people talking about all the famous people that they've met along the way type of interview.
Yeah. Like
music business stories, and I can't remember, like, I don't think he was interviewing Flea, but it might as well have been like just people, like, and I thought, what are we going to talk about? I mean, I'll talk to anybody, but I don't have those kind of stories, so I didn't know if it was a good fit, and it never happened, which is okay.
Right. Kind of takes the pressure off a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather talk about, you know, falcons and churches and stuff like that. Yeah.
It's kind of a universal topic. I think most people at least have some kind of opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, everybody likes to hear showbiz stories, but I guess. But anyway, I do appreciate it.
Yeah, man, it's no problem. I'm glad we finally got to talk. This was kind of this was tricky pulling together, so I'm glad we actually did it. You know, I appreciate it because it was cool listening to your album. So it's very cool to definitely hear the ideas and the thoughts behind what you were doing and all of your other art. So. I will let you know. It'll probably be about a month or so before the episode goes up, but I'll send you a link and let you know when I'm getting ready to publish it and whatnot. And if there's anything you want to add, you can let me know. Would you be able to send me some MP3 copies of the album so I can put it on the episode when I publish it?
Yeah. If I don't remember, because I'm out on the outside right now, not near anything, I can't write it down. I mean, if you send me a reminder, I mean, I can also send you. You mean like? I mean, I could send you the record on the link on SoundCloud, or I could send you MP3s.
Either one would be fine. Okay. Yeah, because I have it on iTunes or not, whatever it's called now. But they don't let you kind of like publish it, and so so it's basically I just need to access to like 2 songs because generally speaking, I start the interview with one of your songs and then I end it with a song.
Nice.
So whichever ones you want to put, you can send those to me and I'll.
Well, we should definitely get Prey and maybe My Medication, or I don't know. We'll figure it out, but it sounds like you're building an audience. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm trying. So far, it's been a slow process, but it's one of those things that I feel like I have consistent listeners. So
that's great.
That's a plus for me because God knows I'm not trying to make money off this.
Yeah, well. I hear you, man.
Yeah.
Well, be in touch, and we'll and keep me posted, and let me know what you need.
Okay. Yeah, I will. I appreciate it, Robert.
Right.
And
yeah, thank you so much.
No problem. I hope you take care.
All right, bye.
All right, man. Bye.
Knocked around, beat up bad, on your hands and knees, you're not sad. See the city, endless flow, rise above from down below, thrown from the wreckage, the sights we will see. When you crawl away with me, going home. It's a good long way, block by block, night and day. Don't be afraid, it's not a crime to get down low and take your time. Thrown from the wreckage, the sights we will see. When you crawl away, yeah, you're gonna crawl away with me.
So that's going to do it for another episode of the Rock God Podcast. I want to thank Robert again for taking a few minutes out of his time to speak with us. If you want, go check out his self-titled album, Birdthrower, on his Bandcamp page, or if you want to go to his personal site where he actually has all of his artwork, it's robertoleaver, LEAVER.com. You can also check out his Instagram, @Birdthrower. Also, check out Mad Bunny Records, where his record has been signed. And you can actually find the self-titled album pretty much wherever you can find music. Apple Music, Spotify, all the platforms. Also, make sure you go and check out heavy-vinyl.com if you're looking for any heavy metal records. You can check out our Facebook page, Heavy Vinyl and Cassettes, Instagram, Heavy Vinyl Records, Twitter, @VinylHeavy. All right, I'm your host, David Locklear. Appreciate you tuning in again this week. And until next time, God bless.